What's going on, guys? Angel Talamantes here with Quick Leads Local, and this is your local business spotlight podcast. I'm with my co-host, Troy, along with Chris Fellerman of the Kris and Christy group. Troy?
All right. Thanks a lot, Angel. And very excited today to introduce Chris Fellerman. Chris, thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
In your office.
Oh, this is awesome.
This is awesome.
And Chris is one of the top realtors in the entire state, top 2% probably. And would you mind just telling us a little bit about your team and about you actually to start, Chris?
Sure.
And your story?
Yeah. Well, we're a Minneapolis and St. Paul based team. We service the Twin Cities and the Brainerd Lakes area. And we're comprised of actually now a team of 10 and growing.
Wow.
Our office is physically set in the northwest suburbs, but we service all of the Twin Cities and Brainerd. So.
Okay, thanks. I think I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Chris Fellerman and how you got into real estate.
How I got into real estate? Well, I've been a real estate agent, Realtor, we call it, since 2005. And prior to that, I was actually selling transportation. I was a corporate account executive for FedEx. And I mean, that was a great job because as you guys are doing podcasts, right, you're meeting all different types of industries.
Absolutely.
And individuals. I got the same opportunity when I was selling for FedEx. I got to talk to all sorts of companies and industries and got to know a lot about business and the inner workings of a customer service department, of a transportation department, of an accounting department. It's funny that like transportation touches all parts of a business.
Of course.
And I kind of correlate that to real estate because real estate, it touches all parts of a family. It really does. The emotions,
So
the anxiety, the happiness, the growth of a family, a marriage, investments. I mean, you talk about investments setting up that last stage of life. It's really encompassing.
Sure.
And so there was a lot of similarity. So around that 2005 time period, I realized in corporate America that I didn't want to climb the ladder of corporate America.
Right.
And I saw a transition because I was exposed to it of real estate having that similar correlation, but I also saw it as an opportunity that I could actually work side by side with someone in an intimate arena, and I really wanted to pursue that.
Absolutely. So then you went all in on it? Or did you kind of ease into it? Or
I kind of eased into it. Yeah, and I was kind of moonlighting as a real estate agent. I don't suggest that nowadays, right? But it worked for me in terms of I was at FedEx for a couple years while I transitioned into real estate full time.
Okay. Now you're absolutely killing it. And for the people watching today and on our Facebook Live, please, if you have questions, type them in the comments, and we'll get some expert advice here from Chris. But going back to team is so important. It's a big trend these days in the real estate industry. And you said you have a team of 10, and I've met most of them. They're amazing, amazing people. Would you mind talking a little bit about the roles on your team and then the people that fill those roles?
Sure, I can, and I do want to talk about that. But I want to take one step back on why a team, at least for us.
No doubt.
And I think both Christy and I, what we saw when we came together in marriage, and now we were both real estate agents as we came together, is I saw in her when she was handling a client, I saw a difference in the way that I handled helping a person sell a home or helping a person buy a home. And a light bulb clicked on for both of us. And that was that customer experience was coming out in a different way, right? And what we decided was, well, certain people might be matched up better given my personality and my talents with me versus with my wife.
Sure.
And so we saw that specializing in certain aspects of our business would be a benefit for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. It's John Gordon Energy Bus. Have you read that book?
We have, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We read it as a team.
Oh, there you go. Because it's not only about getting on the bus, right?
Right.
What seats you're on the bus are just as important. So
that's right. And so our team is comprised of Michael Hurley. Michael Hurley's a great teammate in the fact that he's kind of that director of first impressions. I mean, we have a lot of people that are exploring selling a home, buying a home, and need that first introduction into who to talk to on our team. Mm-hmm. And Michael takes care of that and places them in the right person within the group. I'm just kind of going around the office in my head. Well, there's me, and I lead the team. I also help our expansion efforts in the Brainerd area. We also
definitely want to talk about that later too. It's a nice niche.
We have Christy, who does a lot of leading as well, and she is in kind of an operational role and human resources role as well, and a visionary. She is great at plugging in and finding what we might feel inside is the next step as a team. She explores it, finds it, makes it happen. Brian Erlinson on our team. Brian is kind of the glue factor. And he's an unsung hero that becomes a hero to a lot of our clients, and it resonates with them. When we get our reviews on Zillow and stuff, a lot of them talk about Brian. Brian handles it when it goes under contract until the time it closes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so he handles inspections and works with title companies and loan officers. And when you're building a new home with us, he works with the builders and the designers and making sure that that whole process flows. Mm-hmm. We have Dane Jensen. We have Joe Clements. We have Daryl Bonderson, and we have Jill Erlinson.
Wow.
Those four.
You've added some people lately, haven't you?
Yeah. And those four, they help people buying and selling homes. They are the people that you might traditionally see as a real estate agent, right? So they're in the car, they're negotiating, they're making sure the paperwork is correct. And in today's environment with multiple offers, they're making sure that when that's a home that you want, that's the home that you get. We have Shannon. Shannon helps Shannon Starry, but Shannon is our director of operations, and she makes sure that the operation runs smoothly. We have Elena, and Elena is our listing manager. So when you are listing your home with us, she's making sure that the whole process goes smoothly from the time that we sign the paperwork to go live until the time that it hits MLS, and even after it's on MLS calling for feedback, she makes sure that all of that runs. Okay. Wow. And then we have Greg Bergen, and Greg, he's our runner. So a lot of times there's sign riders that need to go up, come down, lock boxes, and there's a special set of extraordinary circumstances that happen that he's here to assist our clients with too.
All right. Well, thanks, Kris. How do people find you?
How do they find us?
I know.
Well,
simple, right?
We've got Facebook, right?
No
Facebook
doubt.
is a great way, social media. We have our website and our phone number as
Basically,
well.
Google Kris and Christy Group, right?
Yep.
And they'll be able to find you.
We do have a Google page. Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So from 2005, when you started in 2005, did you start by yourself?
I did.
You did. And what was the process like of building that team that you talked about, that golden team that helps you do everything well, you can work on your business? What was the process like of you building that team?
Well, I think it came with experience, right? Because the team didn't really form until 2013.
Okay.
That's when that started. But from 2005 to 2013, it was failures upon failures, upon some successes. And that, gave me the ability, the confidence, Christy as well, to say, you know what, we could lead agents. We could lead and grow this team that we have today.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. So for those people out there that are interested in selling or buying a home, why work with you and your team? Why is it better than working with just a one-off realtor that sells maybe 5-10 houses a year?
Well, when I first started, I was that agent, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I want them to work with me. And I think that anytime anyone puts such big trust in a sale of their largest asset,
Right.
or purchasing their largest asset, you want knowledge, you want experience. It's tricky out there with everything. And I'm learning daily, right? So there's new things that come out to me that I learn with daily. But I also think it comes down to trust. And trust comes, I don't know how we can define how trust comes, but I think trust comes also with the heart and where your heart is at. And I know that with our team, our heart is driven so that at the end of this whole experience, that you're going to go online and give us a 5-star review. Mm-hmm. Now, a 5-star review comes how?
It's doing everything right, impressing people.
Right.
Through great work, through gratitude, through helping somebody through the whole process.
Right.
Yeah.
And so every single day, that's why we're getting together as a team, why we might even be changing next week from where we are today, because certain experiences come up and you're, a lot of times it's that failure that says, we need to do this better.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of change, the market is crazy right now. Mm-hmm. Things are changing all the time. Things like technology, like Zillow. And how are you guys adapting to the market, how crazy that is, and some of the technology, some of the things that are trying to potentially cut agents out even, I've heard. How are you dealing with that?
Well, I think a lot of it is plugging in and not being afraid of technology that is out there. Technology has a part in it. What we see, though, and this is within Keller Williams and our leader, Gary Keller, we're seeing that where the industry is switching to a data, whoever wins the data and technology battle is going to win, right? So you see a lot of acquisitions.
Chris, just to interrupt, that's happening in insurance too, with InsurTech. It's happening with every industry out there.
Right.
But yeah, that was a great point.
And so we're very thankful that we are teamed up with Keller Williams, who recognizes that. Mm-hmm. But we also recognize the fact that you can't replace seeing a home in person. I've not met too many clients. There's maybe been one or two, but that's come through like walking through a house Facebook Live for them before they pull the trigger because they're an out-of-town client.
Right.
We have had some purchases that way, working with out-of-state clients. But everyone that's here making, purchasing, selling real estate, you tangibly need to see it, to feel it. How does the yard look? How does it fit in the neighborhood? You can't replace that with technology.
Impossible. That's a good point. And just your team in general. I mean, you have the empathy, you have the compassion. You meet people face to face, right?
Right.
You just don't get that over the internet.
No, you don't.
No doubt.
So, if you guys have any questions, by the way, we have a top 2% realtor here. Please ask him some questions. We'd love to hear it from you guys. Talking about Zillow, going on from that, we talked to a lot of realtors. Is there a bubble? Could you tell us a little bit about that? Are we in a bubble right now? There's so many people that have so many different opinions on this. What is your opinion, Kris Feller, on this alleged bubble?
I don't know, man. If we had a crystal ball, right?
Yes.
And if you read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, it's a great book. Even if you're buying, selling, you're not a real estate agent, read it. But in there, it talks about, can you predict the market? And we do an exercise, right? And I take you, we take a pen and we go up, and then say we're at the top, and you always miss it. Right. So predicting the market, it really can't be predicted.
Right.
What we're seeing as a team is interest rates are still affordable. You took a look at the historical trend from the 1970s, the fact that we're below 6% in interest rates, it's historically great. So that's leading to affordability. The inventory is tight, right? There's not a lot of homes for sale. The affordability homes are going very fast. But I go back to when we had the disaster that we had in 2008 through 2011. And I think the one thing that I'll pay attention to is probably what's happening with lenders and the pre-qualification process and the loans that they're giving out based upon pre-qualifications. Back in 2008 through 2010, I kind of looked like the market was built on quicksand. Okay? Because you were getting no income, no doc supported loans. You just had to say, I make $120,000. I should be able to buy a $400,000 home. And they're like, oh, you do? Okay, great.
Shake on it.
Great. Now, the foundation with those kind of qualifications wasn't very solid. But you take a look at what's happened since the downturn in our recovery that started in 2012, 2013, is the qualification standards are very stringent. And I feel like we have a strong foundation for the market that we're in. So I don't see the fact of a lot of people walking away from their purchase, right? Okay.
I have a question on here, by the way, for you from Britannia. Is the market still hot for buying homes right now?
Yes.
Yes, that's all she has to say. And another question.
Well, when you compare it against rent, it's actually a great value. And, you know, in our research as a group, we had this interesting fact. Ponder this. Maybe Troy, I can role play with you, but
sure.
What is the average wealth of a renter?
Net, what they have in savings?
No, just net wealth overall.
$20,000.
Now, I don't remember the exact figure, but I think it's closer to like 5.
Is it?
Wow.
What's the average? Wow. Money? What's the average wealth of a homeowner?
250.
It's more like 80.
80?
I was gonna guess 50. Okay. So we're in the ballpark,
right?
But wow, look at the spread on that.
Mm-hmm. Right? Isn't that somewhat of a story?
Let that sink in.
Is that because of just simply the equity, or the people that buy homes are smarter with their money?
Yeah, well, you're continuing to build equity, yes, and you have tax write-offs and different things, but that different mentality of owning a home versus renting, you're placing standards, you're placing a foundation, and I think that has a different mental outlook that affects you.
Right. Yeah, here's one example. It might be going out to eat. If you rent, I'm guessing you're not as happy to be in your rental apartment, so you go out to eat a lot more. Whereas if you have a home, you cook at home. You save money that way, right?
Yeah.
Small example, but makes sense.
Applicable, yeah.
No doubt.
Another question. How long is a home typically on the market before it sells in this market right now?
Well, I think that really comes down to what town is it selling in? What price range is it selling in? Right now, the average in the Twin Cities market for average home sales price is getting closer to $260,000. And for the most part, if it's a great home in that kind of price range, we'd call that the affordability price range. That's probably under 30 days and probably is selling in multiple offers in the first weekend. Now we get into some more like move-up homes and different things, and depending upon what suburb, we are seeing some extended days on market for some of those homes.
Okay. Another question came in as well.
Awesome.
Talking about a patio. If their home does not come with a patio, would building a large patio increase the equity enough to cover the cost of the patio?
That's a really good question.
That is. That's in depth.
Well, that's where actually sitting down with a real estate agent such as myself and having us come out to view the home against the comparables out there. The example would be, what if we're going out and we're taking a look at all of the comparables and the insides are the same, the square footage is the same, but all of those homes have a deck or an outside space. but yours does not. Well, it's then knowing how much would you be able to sell for the same amount if you had the patio, or could you sell for the same amount without the patio? See, so sometimes with a lower priced home, let's say it's a $200,000 split level in Blaine, right? Those will fly off the shelf. If you have a deck or a patio, you might not get the return of spending the money on a patio. And those are the insights that we try as a group to pass along as selling agents to our clients. Our kind of rule of thumb is if you're going to invest because you're coming up to sell, you better be seeing a 3-time more return on what you're investing in to sell it. So if the budget is, well, I've got $1,200 is my budget to put towards improvements to sell the home, then we probably better be seeing $3,600 to $5,000 more in sales price for that type of investment.
Awesome. One more question from Facebook Live.
Great.
If they're coming in, we love it. Keep asking questions. We love it.
Yep.
Why wouldn't a person try to sell a home themselves if the market is so hot?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Man,
That's a good question. It kind of comes down to the following. My example is an example I use a lot. Now, you bought a wedding ring, right?
Correct.
Right? So when you went to buy the wedding ring for your wife, did you go
I
into a jewelry
I almost
store?
fainted. There's a funny story behind that, but yes, I almost fainted.
But when you walked into that jewelry store, you expected to pay a fair price for that.
Yeah,
Ring.
absolutely. I went to Shane Company, so they're not the cheapest place, but
Right.
sometimes you don't, especially when it comes to a ring, you don't go for the absolute cheapest place that sells.
But you went there was a salesperson involved, so you expected to pay a certain price.
Of course.
Now let's take that wedding ring that you bought for your wife. That's now on your wife's finger, right?
Correct. I hope so.
Right. But it's in the box.
Right.
It's in the original packaging. You've got the receipt. You've got all of the clarifications for the diamond and the wedding band and everything else. Now you put that for sale at your garage sale
Sure.
that you're having. Do you expect to get the same
No,
price?
I'd probably expect half.
Right?
if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because there's not a salesperson involved, right? And that's what happens a lot of times when people try to sell a home themselves. What is the mentality of the buyer or investor that's buying a for sale by owner, right?
Deal.
That you can, wheel and deal.
Yeah, right. And the money that you're saving, and I get it, on commissions is the same money that the buyer is coming in to try to save.
Sure.
True.
And that convergence usually leads to right around 7 to 10% on average that a for sale by owner is going to get in the sale of their home versus what having a professional agent market the home for them.
And there's so much less stress too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, doing it yourself, I could only imagine all the paperwork, all the legality, and so on and so forth.
Now, thankfully, you have used us in the past, and
Yeah.
on those purchases, that after it's written, there's a lot of things that can come up, like you're just talking about, between that contract and closing that you want a professional to help you with, because there is a lot of exposure on these large purchases during that time.
Yeah, and speaking of seller listings, it's the market, like I said before, is so crazy. And I want to talk to you about your listing book. This thing is phenomenal. And I was lucky enough to sit down with Kris at an appointment with a client to sell their home. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, why is there such a lack of inventory still for houses for sale?
Boy, I wish I had that answer. I have some thoughts, but the one thought that predominantly comes in that when we're talking with our clients on is the fact that there is a fear that a client isn't going to be able to find a home after they sell, and I think that's holding people back, right?
Of course.
I can tell you that we've never had someone sell their home and become homeless.
Sure.
So it usually doesn't happen, but it does take sitting down and with our group and kind of going through, well, what does that look like? how do you avoid being homeless? How do I find the home that is out there after I sell my home? And I think that is one fear that is prevalent for a lot of people looking to sell their home.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, just going, do you have a question, Angel?
I don't actually.
Yeah, no doubt. I really want you, Kris, to unpack the seller presentation that you present when you're trying to list a home.
Okay. Well, the seller book here was really put together, and I've found that, you know, there is the digital age, right? We're in the digital age here on Facebook.
Of course.
But when we have a book, it is nice to feel it. It is nice to have this tactile thing as we sit down with our clients. And in it, we're going to this is really to deal with the marketing of the home and the different techniques that we use to get you top dollar in today's market. And in here, though, that I think we start off with that we feel is really, really important, and we go back to that trust factor, is who are we? What is our mission, our vision, and our values as a team?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I could just read from it real quick, our mission is to help people build wealth, stability through home ownership, and the dream of home ownership.
Absolutely.
Okay. And our vision is to dominate Minnesota in homes sold and 5-star reviews. So I kind of go back to that 5-star review because that is a validation that we delivered. And I think most people want it to be an experience that they didn't expect in a good way.
Of course. Yes.
Right.
Of course.
And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create, our vision is big opportunities for our team members. We understand today's and the millennials. We do believe that working is working, but through working, we want validation. We want opportunities. We want to deliver that. Okay. And the other is to give back to our community, our clients, and our charities. So giving back is really, really important for us. And so you'll see through a lot of our events, and a lot of what we do continually is finding opportunities to give back to the community. I can't remember the pounds. We had a recent event for our past clients where we had them out to a movie, but along with the movie, they came in with donations for the Care Food Shelf here locally to help kids out throughout the summer when they are not getting meals from the schools, but they still need food during the summer.
Of course.
And I think it was close to like 900 and some plus pounds that our clients brought to the event that we were able to deliver on their behalf.
That is great.
What a great thing. What a great thing. I have a few more questions from Facebook even. So, Kris, is it important to have an inspection prior to home buying, and why?
No. I'll explain that. Now, in Minneapolis, in certain communities, you do have to have a city inspection prior to listing your home. That's required. Okay. It's in Minneapolis, it's called the Truth in Housing Inspection. You have to have that. But when you sell your home and you're not in a city that requires that, the answer is no. And the reason being is that the buyer is going to have their own inspection.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll deal with that then. As professionals with our team, we will go through the house and we will take a look at all parts of the house, and we will let you know if we see any red flags. Okay, we're experienced enough to know that. But should you do the expenditure? I just don't think it's worth a $400 expenditure, because the buyer has not built up that trust with you as a seller and is not going to use your inspection. They're going to hire their own.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to get the value out of it that you might otherwise think.
Okay.
Another question from Dan. Is it necessarily bad to sell your home in the winter?
No.
No. The answer is no.
Well, then let's talk about that, because that comes up all the time, right? I'm going to wait for the spring market.
Yep.
That's a very common thought and a very common conversation that we have. So it's not a wrong question. It is a question that comes up all the time. I did a study back in 2013, and at that point, I think in the Twin Cities market, there was like 53,000 sides in 13 county metro area for the year that had sold. And when you take a look at, then break it down in the percentage of homes that sell by month. Now it's all going to equal 100%, right? But in December and January, yes, there was less sales. There was like 6% of the sales happened in each of those months. Now, talk about it ballooning. It doesn't balloon. In the summer month, in July, I think was the highest, and it was at 9%. Okay. So almost every month was equal.
And there's probably that many few buyers, right? So it equals out in that respect too.
Right. You're coming on where I'm going next, and that is when you're selling in the wintertime, you have less competition. That's a good thing when you're selling your home, right? And the buyer,
it'd be better to have more competition if I'm selling my home, more people wanting to buy my home.
Well, I can tell you in the springtime, there's a lot more looky-loos too. And we call them looky-loos just because
I like that.
Just because they're interested in real estate. You know, there's a reason HGTV is popular.
Oh, of course. My God. Open concept, right?
Right. But during that springtime, you're with looky-loos. I mean, they just haven't been pre-qualified. They're not ready to take that step yet they're entering your home to take a look.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense.
And when you have more competition, you also have a greater ability to sell the house down the street for them because you might not be priced right. You might have one less bedroom, and they came through and saw yours and found the other to be of more value. Okay. In the wintertime, the buyers, they might be less, but they are also very serious. So there's a lot of, and also you think about listing a home over December, Christmas time. I mean, the street looks beautiful, right? With all the lights inside the homes. It's very homey and cozy. Warm. It can show really well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Another question, which if I was a real estate agent, I'd probably ask you the same thing. Are you hiring existing real estate agents or looking to grow your staff?
Yes.
Of course.
No doubt.
Yep.
Could you explain that process? Because I was lucky enough to go through your story, which is part of your interview process, right? You kind of do a life story for people.
We do.
Which I found was very fascinating, that your life story, Kris, which we could talk about some other time. But when you're hiring a new realtor, what is your process and what characteristics are you looking for?
Well, we're always looking for talent. Now, talent is kind of a weird word in the fact that I think we all have talents. So I think probably the biggest part for us is a cultural fit. And so, I mean, we have a very defined process in which we sit down multiple times to make sure that we find the right fit. And we want to learn everything that we can about a potential team member. So we are going to go into a life story kind of event where we can learn about them. We find that to be really important. And going back to that, I was, I think you guys will find this really cool, is that I was listening to a podcast, and I listened to multiple varieties, but this one was Peter King. And Peter King, you would think it's all sports, and I love sports.
Me too.
But he was actually interviewing Barack Obama's, one of his guys on the staff that was with him for a long time, and I can't remember the guy's name. But it just struck me that they were talking about when Barack Obama and the campaign was starting to take off, and they had to, in like big groves, hire a lot of people, right?
Right.
The Barack Obama said to the hiring staff one key thing. He's like, "Don't hire assholes."
Yeah.
So simple.
It really is. And what does that mean, right? And that meant that the people that were on staff and Barack's staff, they were connected. They had a strong connection. Our group has a strong connection. And you wouldn't want to bring in, no matter what their talent, no matter what their experience, you wouldn't want to bring in anyone that could crack that.
Right.
That could ruin that.
This one bad apple can bring everybody down, right?
Yeah.
So true.
It's awesome. Leah just chimed in. Looking for a great real estate company. These are your people.
Thanks, Leah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We appreciate you.
Another, actually, which is a great question because I just wanted to transition to it. The Brainerd Lakes area.
Yeah.
Do you help people buy and sell lake and cabin homes?
We do, right? And what we found over our experience was that a lot of our current Minneapolis clients, St. Paul, the Twin Cities area, they either had a cabin to sell, or they were looking to invest or buy a cabin themselves up in Brainerd. And, it really takes, and there's a lot of great agents up there. And unfortunately, I found a bad referral one time, and it really made me ponder that, well, what if we serviced that client up there instead of transitioning it to some other system, some other agent? And that was the precipitous for us being able really to take that transition. And we realized that a lot of the people that are buying cabins up in up in Brainerd are typically coming from the Twin City area. Of course. So we can be that bridge on finding a buyer for a cabin up there. And we do have experience and expertise up there. So
is the market any different up there compared to the Twin Cities as far as listings and buyers and so forth?
It is a little bit different. Of course, it blossoms in the summer, in the spring, and early fall, for sure.
That it does. Actually, our team was up there. We shoot for some resorts up there. We were just at Arrowwood.
Great.
Resort Lodge. Shout out to Arrowwood. Yes, awesome. I love them. With trying to sell real estate up there, is it much more niche, would you say? I see a lot of, Troy and I talked about this the other day as well, about vacation homes and people trying to open their house up for vacations and stuff. With selling real estate up there, are houses selling at the same rate, would you say, as Minneapolis or as the Twin Cities, or is it much slower up there? Is it much more of a niche? What is it like trying to sell up in Brainerd as opposed to the Twin Cities?
I think real estate is very common among the industries. And, it's kind of that simple thing. I mean, you have 10 homes for sale. The best 2 or 3 are going to sell all the time, consistently, in a very quick fashion. Because it's a value-based system. And when buyers see the value, and the value comes in many ways.
Of course.
Size, location, condition, all of that factors in. And so they're going to make decisions based upon that. They do that up in Brainerd too, right?
Right.
When depending upon the lake and the cabin and proximity to downtown Nisswa, proximity to a bike trail, all of that factors in.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And when it matches, it can either be a quick sale or it could sit on the market for a while. And that's just like here.
Cool. A common thread, Kris, that you've been talking about a lot is culture.
Yes.
And you brought that up multiple times. And I look around this room here and I see vision boards of your team, which is so amazing too. I wish you guys could see these vision boards. Did you get together with your team and do those together?
Yeah, we get together a couple times a year and make sure that all of the team members are growing towards their vision board, growing towards their goals. Mm-hmm. It's really, really important that our team is going forward.
Sure. So how do you, throughout the year, how do you encourage them? Do you just kind of come in here sometimes and pick out a few things and ask them how they're doing on this or that?
That's a really good point. I don't think we've done that in a while, but we will go back to the boards, and during a meeting, we might look over at them because this is our meeting room, mm-hmm. and we will say, hey, you just accomplished that goal.
Oh, yeah, right? That's so cool.
Like Jill and Brian, one of their visions was to buy a cabin. They bought their cabin this year.
That is great. I see Disney World on there for some, and
right.
That's what makes you a family, and what culture is all about. It's not just how many sales did you get this month, right?
Right.
It's like, there's a direct correlation, obviously, between your success and going to Disney World, but you can focus on things like, what else do we have here? Just awesome trips like on mountains and things like that people want to do, and it's just amazing stuff.
And don't you see this too, that and I see it at church a lot too, that when we're dealing with our fellow coworkers and other people out in society, I mean, I think one of the biggest things people want today is time.
Of course, one of the most important assets we have.
It's everything.
The most important asset. It is the most important asset.
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes,
right?
That's the most important asset we have.
Right. And that's where the synergy of, so going back to that initial question of why teams,
yes.
the team was brought to us because we wanted time. We see that as a single agent, it can dominate you 7 days a week, and when you're successful, and it can dominate you more than 8 hours a day.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
But not managed well, that can tear you away from family. That can tear you away from experiences that grow you as an individual and different things. Mm-hmm. And so what we wanted to do, hopefully correctly, is bring together a group of individuals that we can bless each other and bless our clients and actually achieve some of those time standards that we're all searching for.
That's everything. That's great.
Well said. Well said.
Anything, Angel?
I have no more questions for you, Kris.
Questions?
I'm just impressed by I love your office. I'm impressed by your ability to show everybody exactly what you're doing. I'm really impressed by how much gratitude you have towards your team, because that's one of the most important things for me. It almost gets me choked up when you have true gratitude for your team and you have true gratitude for your area and serving people. There's just nothing better, and there's just nothing more fulfilling as an entrepreneur as gratitude for your team and serving people in your community.
Thank you,
Kris. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Kris.
I'm blessed. So
awesome. Doubt. Thank you, guys. This has been Angel Talamantes and Troy Thompson of Pinnacle Insurance with Click Leads Local. Until next time, guys, we're signing off.